Scrapbookers, this is Megan, and I am back today with another Scrappy challenge layout for you. So for this challenge, we are going to be using washi tape. And I went on to Pinterest and I found a few layouts that I really liked. And then I decided to scrap lift this one that I would have just showed you. But I had 3 photos to use, and so my layout turns out quite a bit different. Really, what I scrap lifted was the way she used the papers. I don't even think she used washi tape, but I'm going to use washi tape at the top and the bottom, kind of like the scrap lifted layout used paper at the top and the bottom. So here is my first roll of washi. I had a really thick piece of this blue polka dot, and so I'm going to put that at the top, and it is kind of off center, which I was okay with that. I I didn't want it to be exactly perfect. I had a little bit left over on the top, so I'm going to cut that down, and then I'm going to put that down there on the bottom. And this piece of tape gave me quite a bit of trouble. I'm going to take it up and put it back down and then take it up, and I apologize that I was off camera there. I didn't realize I was off camera. So here I am just trying to make it line up with the bottom of the paper, and finally it happened. And then here I'm going to place the photos, and then I'm going to decide to cut them down a little bit. I had this big one of my son that I didn't want to cut down a whole lot, but I wanted it to be closer to the size of the other two, which were more squarish. And then here I decided to pull out some vellum. Last week's challenge was on vellum, and I never made a layout for that challenge, so I thought, hey, I could bring some vellum into this layout. I should have done some embossing on it or something fun, you know, but instead what I did was I just glued it down and I cut it off, and then I'm going to glue it onto a piece of pattern paper. But it was just a really simple way to use some vellum. So here I'm just going to glue all of the photos down on the vellum, and then I will pull out some pattern paper and cut those down. So this is where I start thinking, well, maybe I should like divide up these 2 photos. So here I'm going to glue down this big one on that kind of lighter piece of pattern paper, but then I decide, no, it needs to be on this more bold and kind of crazy piece of paper, because this layout is about my son being a destroyer. And this is my middle son. At the time, he was the youngest, and he was almost 2 years old in these photos. And what had happened was I had asked my friend to babysit Brennan. This is my son Brennan, and she has a sweet little 2-year-old daughter, and they were best friends at the time. So we were always hanging out at their house. They were always at our house, you know, stuff like that. But she didn't really watch my kids a whole lot. And so this one morning, I asked her to babysit my kids, and she said, "Okay, sure." And then so she was talking to her mom on the phone, which I think is so weird when you say you're going to babysit someone's kids and then you're like, "Oh, I'm going to spend an hour on the phone with my mom." She's like best friends with her mom. I love my mom, but I've never just wanted to sit and talk to my mom for like an hour. Anyway, I digress. So she was talking to her mom on the phone, and the kids were being really loud, and so she locked herself in her room. Who does that? Like, why would you? The kids are being loud. Obviously, they're going to get into stuff. Why would you leave them alone? Anyway, so then she heard the toilet flush a couple minutes after she went into her room, and she came out and she found this mess on the floor. So that stack of toilet paper on the top, like the top cluster of photos on the right hand side, that's a stack of toilet paper in in her bathroom that's right next to her room. And she blamed it all on Brennan, because her daughter was just too sweet and cute. Like, she wouldn't ever have done that, right? So I was like, okay, at the time I was probably fine. I am no longer friends with this person, which might not be a surprise because she's kind of, yeah. Anyway, long story short, she was supposed to be watching my kids and she wasn't, and then she blamed it all on Brennan. And she wrote up a blog post about how Brennan is the destroyer. And so I am just I'm going to scrapbook these photos of Brennan. And I'm saying this kind of annoyed at my friend, but at the same time, I wanted to document this because it was just kind of funny. Like that to me, it was funny. It wasn't funny to her because, she has these sweet angelic children and heaven forbid they go into the bathroom if you don't watch them. Like, oh, okay, sorry. I need to just get back to the video. Anyway, so here I decide to write the high on those top two photos and then the low on the bottom photo. And my reasoning for that was just because, this was the highlight of his day was, destroying the beach ball and destroying the bathroom, and then he crashed. And so that was the low part of the day. He finally had a settled down moment where he's, napped. Excuse me. So I just thought that was kind of cute to say, the high and then the low, and to kind of separate the two different points in his day. Okay, so now back to the layout. I did a little bit, add a little bit of the washi tape to the top left of that bottom photo. Here I am going to pull out some Heidi Swap Color Shine, or as some of you might know it as Heidi Shine. And I believe that is in the color Butter. And I have this stencil that I cut out of chipboard on my silhouette a while ago, and I'm going to just spray it, and that looks good, right? Then I decide to spray the bottom half, and that does not look good. So I was like, oh my goodness, I do this to myself all the time. Then I flipped it over, and I was like, I can just use the negative, and it'll, kind of just look all messy. Well, it didn't really look that great. Here I was kind of cleaning off the stencil a little bit, but then I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to add a little bit more depth and maybe the background won't look so bad. So here I am using some, I think it's matte medium or gel medium or something like that. And I'm just adding it to some different areas on the layout and just adding some texture. And in the end, I actually am going to cover up most of this. So it's just kind of funny that you do this stuff to the background of your paper and then you cover it up. So here I just spent some time doing that on the very bottom and then going all the way up to the top of the layout. And I do really like how it looks after I do this, but it feels pointless now because it's all covered up. So that's just kind of like, in hindsight, I wish I would have just not done it. But it's okay. It does add some texture to the parts where you can see it. Okay, so here I think I walked away to go wash off my little palette knife that I had, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to use my glue gun, or not my glue gun, sorry, my Stampin' Up! Heat gun, and I'm going to dry up this background. So here I'm just trying to make sure that the placement is going to be good with the photos up there in the top left-hand corner. And then now here I have my heat gun. So this is going to take a while because I wanted to make sure that it was all the way dry, that it wasn't going to stick onto the photos and all that fun stuff that happens when you do mixed media. So I did do some heating from the backside, and that actually did help the page not warp and buckle. So if you have a problem with buckling, and I didn't use any gesso either, which is usually I like to use gesso before I do any spray paint or anything like that, but I wasn't thinking that I was going to do that on this layout, so I didn't do it. But if you if you, sorry, I can't think. If you warm the front and then warm the back, then it makes it so that it's kind of even on both sides so that it won't buckle and get too warped. Okay, so now that it's all dry, I'm going to start putting down the photos. Now for these top two photos, I thought it would be really cool to pop them up on some 3D tape because this is supposed to be the high of his day, right? So you want to make it higher on the layout, like 3D, you know? And so I thought that was kind of a cool idea. So here I'm going to use these Recollections circle adhesive dots, and I had a bunch of them that were gone already, and so to make sure that the middle doesn't cave in, you know, over time, I'm going to put that piece there in the middle. Sorry guys, I have like a really bad cold. I think I'm going to need to go to the doctor on Monday, and I'm hoping against hope that it's not bronchitis, but I kind of have a feeling that it's bronchitis. Not fun at all. Okay, so now here I've glued down all the photos and gotten all that taken care of. We still have quite a bit of ways to go on this layout. This layout took me, oh gosh, I think an hour and 40 minutes to do. So here I pulled out this sheet of paper that I liked, and it came with this cut apart that said fun and games, and I thought that that was perfect and that I could use that for my journaling. So I'm gonna place it right there next to the bottom photo. And then let's see, what am I gonna do next? Oh, I'm going to add a little bit more washi tape. So I had this yellow striped washi tape that I used at the on the top and the bottom of the layout. Oh, and then first I was going to do my journaling. So my journaling just says the name of my friend. Didn't know what she was getting into when she agreed to babysit Brennan. He was a lot more of a handful than sweet little Lainey. So I was a little bit nicer in my journaling than, you know, I thought I was going to be. But I mean, I don't want to be completely negative, so I was trying to be not so negative. Okay, now I'm going to put down some more of this washi tape, this yellow striped washi tape. And I'm really, really liking how this is coming out, but I still felt like it needed a little bit more something. So I'm going to add some of this blue washi tape to that side, but it kind of ripped in half. And so that piece that I pulled off isn't going to work. So I fidget with it and try to make it work to the, you know, the best that I can, but it's just not working. So I'm going to pull that piece off and cut another strip. And the area that I needed was very, very small. So it was kind of hard to get a small enough piece, but that worked pretty well. And then I'm going to put the extra piece down there underneath that one on the bottom left-hand corner. So there I placed that down, and now I'm going to take a break. And my idea is that maybe instead of doing the journaling on that page, that I would make a companion page to this layout, because I knew that my friend had written a blog post about this day and about what had happened. And so I thought it would be really interesting to print off the blog post, like the journaling that she had done through the blog post, because I did get these pictures from her blog a long time ago. And so I went and, you know, searched for her blog, and I printed off the bits and pieces about Brennan. So here I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do this companion page, so I'm going to make it a little bit, you know, the top and the bottom like the other page. And then I'm going to go off and look for some, what am I looking for? Alphas, some alpha thickers. And here I'm thinking, well, maybe it needs another, you know, some more yellow, but then I'm like, nope, it doesn't. So I'm going to trim that down, and then I'm going to go off and look for my thickers. And this is what makes me decide, you know, I don't want a whole page dedicated just to the blog post that she wrote up, because I didn't really like what she wrote, and so I just didn't want that to be the focus of this layout, if that makes sense. But here I'm going through this alpha set, and I didn't have enough R's, so I cut again I can't talk. I cut up a Y, but then I realized, well, I would need the Y, like 2 Y's, and there was only 2 Y's. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to scratch that idea. Scratch that alpha. So then I pull out a few more, and then I'm totally going to just decide against it. And this is where I will come back with my original layout, and I had typed up the blog post that she had written up. So here I'm just cutting it down, and I'm trying to figure out where exactly I want to put all of this stuff. So this journaling that I have right there in my hand, my left hand, that I'm putting ink on now, and I am using Close to My Heart Canary and then Heidi Swap Teal Blue. That one is about Brennan, when she called Brennan the Destroyer. So the reason I am going to name this layout the Destroyer is because that's what she called him. And I find it comical. It's funny because, I mean, he obviously destroyed, you know, her bathroom and is trying to destroy the the beach ball, whether he's meaning to or not. Like, he wasn't really trying to destroy the beach ball. I think he was actually trying to blow it up because it was deflating. So that's why this whole thing is just so funny, because she just had such a negative outlook on my son, and it was just like, really? I don't know. Anyway, so now here I am starting to do the title, and I really liked this alpha. Brennan's favorite color is red, and this alpha is red, so I thought it was perfect, but I just can't get it to fit up in that area. I'm going to fidget with it. I'm going to try to make it work, but it just isn't going to work. So I'm not going to end up using it. I'm going to scratch the whole word Brennan and just have the title be The Destroyer. So here I decide to put the word destroyer down here on the bottom, and I'm going to make it, you know, all tipsy-turvy because, you know, if you're a destroyer, you're not trying to make things perfect, right? So that's what I do with that. Sorry guys, my throat is just so dry. I need to keep drinking water, so I had to take a water break there. So now I have that word destroyer all done, and I don't have a T, but I wanted to use this alpha. So I'm going to cut up this F and make it into a T, and then I have an H and I don't have an E. So I'm going to make this C into an E, and it still doesn't look that great, but you know, I was just like, okay, I think at this point I was probably at like the hour mark, and I was like, I just need to get this done. I could have possibly been at like the hour and a half mark at this point. So now I am trying to fit the word Brennan down a little bit lower, but it's just not going to work. So I am going to give up. I'm going to put all these pieces back, and then we're going to move on to gluing down the journaling that my friend did. So I wanted this journaling on that left-hand photo to be hanging off of the photo. So I am having to put some 3D dots down, and then I'm going to glue this journaling with my ATG gun, and since it's going to be on top of some of that mixed media medium, the matte medium, I wanted to make sure that it was going to stick. So here I'm trying to use my fine line bottles to get out some glue, but they aren't working. And it's not because the glue is stuck, it's because I can't push hard enough on it to get the glue out. There's just not enough air or something. I don't know. It's really frustrating me. Anyway, long story short, I finally got it glued down and I'm really, really happy with how that looks. Now, let's see, what do I do next? Oh, the rotary date stamp. So this is the Becky Higgins Project Life rotary date stamp. It's like my new favorite thing. I've had it for quite a few months. I bought it at Michael's. I got it on sale, or I think I had a coupon, and I love it. So I'm just going to stamp the date to the right of that journal card, and then also up at the top right under the washi tape. So now I'm thinking, let's see, what am I thinking? Okay, so I wanted to have a piece of paper that said the typed journaling is courtesy of so and so, my friend. So I typed that off and I put it in a different font so that you know that it wasn't part of the journaling. And then I'm going to ink the edges and everything on that. And then I'm going to glue it on. I'm thinking I'm going to glue it up there on the washi tape, but that just doesn't look right. And so finally, I'm going to decide to glue it onto the photos right there. And I probably could have found a better place, but I just was like so tired with this layout by this point. I just wanted to be done. I had this little printable that I got from the Silhouette Design Store. And so I am going to cut it off and glue it right there just to kind of take up some of that trapped space there. Then I'm thinking I need something in between the photos and the word the, because there's just this huge space there that has nothing. It's just trapped space. So here I'm going to glue down a few of these little Studio Calico wood veneer birds. And those are stinking cute. So I found a bigger one and I thought I can put that by the word the. And then I went to my little cutout drawer and I found this arrow. So I'm going to ink it up with the teal and the canary yellow. And I am really happy with that. So I'm going to glue that right there, pointing towards the word the, and then have the bird right next to it on the left-hand side. Right now I am using my Tombow Aqua Glue in that fine line bottle to glue down those birds, but that's just not going to work. I like to make sure that my embellishments and everything stay down on pages, so I'm going to end up using my hot glue gun to really secure those birds down. Here I pulled out some enamel dots from my stash and I'm just using those in a couple areas. And then that is going to be the end of my layout. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will have links to the other ladies' channels below. I hope you will go check